This is, I wanted to start with reviewing from yesterday first, kind of lead into today's. How did we go about doing this yesterday?
You got to identify A and B.
Okay. What do we got?
8 is, since that 8 is 2 cubed,
Good.
that would be 2.
Good.
And M6 would just be M squared, and then outside comes 2 cubed.
Good. So that's A and B. And then we would write this as 2. Let's see, we got the minus track, so maybe I'll circle these so I don't screw them up. So I've got 2 minus M squared, so A minus B. And then I've got A squared, which is 2 squared, plus 2 times M squared, plus M squared squared, which is M to the 4th. Now, if you want to do that stuff in your head, you are welcome to. If you need to write it out, feel free to write it out. I know everybody's kind of at a different spot, but that's it. That's the whole problem. Correct. Did you do the homework yesterday? Okay, well, that's what the homework yesterday was. Yeah, you're being asked to factor, and if your problem looks like this beginning part, then it automatically can be factored like this end part. So there's no like figuring out how to do it. You just need to figure out what goes in place of A and B.
How did you get the M squared? Did you just simplify it? Or
The M squared?
yeah.
Yep. So because this first one was the 6th power, and I want to write it as cubed,
Oh, okay.
a power to a power, you multiply them. So basically in my head, you divide by 3. So like if this was M to the 12th, I would put M4 on the inside so that when they multiply, they get 12. Okay, so we're semi-familiar with yesterday's probably now. The only time we're going to use this formula is when the beginning part looks like cubed minus cubed or cubed plus cubed. So they call it difference of cubes or sum of cubes. Okay, good. Then we'll step it up a slight notch here, which you didn't have yesterday. JP, I heard you roll it earlier. What other number did you get?
20.
20? Well, that's you. That's pretty unlucky. But you're exempt. You're rolling. So, do you want to roll again?
Does that say T to the 4th? Or
It does. I didn't write this one out.
11.
11. I think a student was writing at the board for this one. Ethan, you're 11. Now, if you recall way back in factoring, do you remember what the first thing you were supposed to do when you were trying to factor? Like, what was the first thing you were supposed to look for?
Common.
Good. Very good. Greatest common factor. Yeah, no, very good. Honestly, I wasn't sure how many people were going to remember that at all. So on this one, 2 goes into both, and then they both have 4 t's. So I'm going to factor out 2t to the 4th. And factoring out means dividing by it, so if you want to write it like this, you could. Some people kind of need to do this so in their head they can separate things. In the parentheses, I'd be left with t cubed plus 27. Go ahead, Emma. I could tell you're looking to ask something on that one. Is it the 27?
Is this different from yesterday?
Yep.
This is what we're doing today. So now
Yep. Well, we're doing it right now, so yes. We're doing it today.
you did 2t and then you did 7. Did you minus 4 for the 4th power? Or 7 to get t3?
Yes. So when you're dividing by powers, you subtract them.
Okay.
Where'd you get 2T4?
I've got t to the 7th here, and I've got t to the 4th here. That means if I'm looking to see what they have in common, they both have 4 powers in common. The first one has 3 more powers, but they both have 4 in common together. it's been about a month and a half since we did this, so I'm sure it's like sort of rusty. But ask away. Are you factoring something out means dividing it? That's why I wrote it underneath. Some people like to do this step in their head. If you want to factor out in your head, you certainly can. You don't have to write this dividing part, but some people need to just to be able to figure it out. Are we okay with where this parentheses came from then? Okay? Okay? So first thing I did, I took out greatest common factor. But then now I'm looking at this second parentheses, and it's a sum of cubes. So now I'm going to factor the sum of cubes using that formula we learned from yesterday. That's why I told you yesterday, the stuff we were doing yesterday was intended for today's, even though it was like its own assignment. So, were you good enough to do these kind of in your head? Right here.
Okay.
It fell on the chair.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you.
Yep. Forgot what I was asking. Oh, were you guys able to do these in your head at all, or am I going to screw you up if I just write down the answer? Like, are you able to figure out what A and B are without writing them down? So A is T and B is 3. Okay, so now I can factor T cubed plus 27 into T plus 3, so A plus B. T squared minus T times 3 plus 3 squared. This is considered factored completely. I'm hearing by the size that this feels very different than yesterday. So yesterday, whenever we were given something that had a cubed plus a cubed, or a cubed minus a cube, we learned how to factor it into two separate answers. That's what these two things are. So we learned how to write it as two separate factors. Now today, 2t7 plus 54t4. Well, they both had 2t4 in common, so I took that out, right there. And then the other factor was t cubed plus 27, which just happens to look like a sum of cubes. So I immediately took this and wrote it as two separate factors, like we did yesterday. That's kind of the whole point of the learning how to factor it, is that whenever you see it, you can write its factors. Oh boy. Just not good?
Well, I just don't know you got the
27 is 3 cubed. I figured out A and B kind of in my head. Yep. If you want to write everything down, go like, if you want to write everything down like we were, absolutely, you go for it.
So you're basically just like, or you're just cubing, like, to get the A and B, you're just cubing the second
Figuring out
part?
what cubed is that, yes.
Okay.
Yep. Just like we did yesterday. So like what we started today, like reviewed from yesterday, is you figure out A and B by deciding what's cubed to get that. Are we okay with this one? Should I start it over? Like, should I erase it and start it over? Just start a different problem? I can, yeah. Okay. Is it too bright again?
I don't know.
This looks different.
Yeah.
Oh, good, 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 good. Yep.
If I get called.
So we don't have like terms. Dang, that sucks, huh? Can't do that.
And then I said 4.
Oh, man. If you recall from us doing factoring, when we did 3-term hard problems, the second step of 3-term hard looked like this. And whenever we have 4 terms, the method we do is to put an imaginary line down the middle and split it apart. This is going to be called factor by grouping, but you don't have to know the name. But you split it in half. JP, we need somebody. We need to wake people up. 13? Jake's gone. 25. Sophie. What do 8x cubed and 4x squared have in common?
4x squared.
Perfect. So 4 goes into both of them. And then they both have x squared. I mean, the first one is cubed, so it has more, but they both have at least 2. So I'm going to divide 4x squared on both of these. Very good. And then in the parentheses, I write what I'd get as the answer.
Would it be 2x plus 1?
Yeah. I'm sure factoring out a common factor is going to come back to you pretty quickly because we'll be using it. So then I look at the second one, and they've got nothing in common, sort of. Yeah, they have a negative in common. That's it. So I'm going to take a negative symbol out. Now, conveniently and, well, on purpose, they have the same parentheses. Without calling on somebody, does anybody remember what to do from here?
You just do 2x plus 1 and then 4x minus 1 multiplied by each other.
Yeah. So technically, they both have this same thing in common. So I'm going to write it in the front because it's like a greatest common factor. And if I divide both sides by the same thing, I'm left with 4x squared minus 1 in the parentheses. So I guess, are we done?
Yeah.
Are you saying no just because you think we're not done because I asked the question?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, that's decent logic. You think we're done just because you want to be done?
No, I mean,
Oh.
that's we're done after this part.
No, we are done.
Oh, yesterday.
Yeah.
Yes, I stopped early on purpose yesterday.
Oh, we're not done.
We're not done. We're not done.
Oh, shoot. Come on, lines. You're on the side. Okay.
Is this the same one we did yesterday?
No.
Or is it just close? It's just close. It's close. Okay. Oh, okay. I was gonna. You looked like you had. We're trying to ask how to factor this or answer how to factor it.
So, if you look at the right side of the equation, you can divide 2x plus 1.
Good. Very good. So I've got a squared and a minus. So this is called a difference of squares. So if you remember from last chapter, difference of squares means you can factor it like this. Now, if this was a cubed, well, then we could do exactly what we did yesterday. But since it was a squared, I can split it up further. Now, before you get too freaked out, do you know that this is only going to be one question on the test?
Now I do.
One question out of 20 of them.
Is that the final answer?
That is the final answer. And you could write it slightly different because there's 2x. There's two 2x plus 1s, so you could write it as a squared. You don't have to. So this is kind of like the hardest style problem in this first half of the chapter, the test. And it's only going to be one problem, so it's not something that you need to freak out about for the test. In my opinion, you guys have been doing really well up till now, and so keep that in mind. These are considered hard, no matter what level you're at.
So you basically just like factor out things.
You factor everything as much as you can until you can't factor anymore.
So
Yeah, I mean that's what we're doing, and it's not always going to be set up the exact same. So I can tell you you're always going to do this or this. It's just you basically are going to factor everything as much as possible. Yeah.
Why is the last 2x plus 1, why is that like a plus sign? If
y is 1 and minus and 1 plus.
I can put this one up on the board as well for the test if you want. So this was difference of squares from last chapter. And if something is written as squared minus squared, then you can factor it as 1 plus 1 minus. So this is like 2x squared minus 1 squared. I didn't write it out because I thought maybe you remembered it from before, but I can certainly write it out. So, would I be dumb to ask for fist to 5 right now? Would it be a lot of 1s and 2s?
maybe
A little more confident than 2?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. Okay. I know there's definitely 1s and 2s. They just don't want to speak up, and that's okay. Okay.
Just keep going. Do that.
Thanks. Go back?
We're not ready for this.
Oh, go back. Not because you need to copy it, but because this next one looks too scary. Oh, I see. I see. That's good logic. It looks horrible, so pretend it's not happening. I see. Okay, first thing, is it look horrible just because it's 4th power?
Yeah. No numbers.
This one was cubed. This one was 7th power.
Okay, but it's too many numbers. There's only 2 things.
Oh,
This is a lot.
There's like a lot. That's 5.
so I think it's not bad because whoever wrote it just wrote it huge.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, it's very menacing.
it is. So if I do this, I'll cheat. Oh my god, it seems so much less scary now.
It's pretty scary still. It's a lot in a small area.
Yeah, I mean, like, this doesn't look bad at all anymore. It's logic. That's how it works. If it's big, it's scary. If it's small, it's not.
It's pretty scary.
Yeah, oh, dang. I tried what I could. Okay. I thought I would use little kid logic. JP, let's roll one. What? 15? Dylan. You're 15.
Yeah.
Do you remember? We've actually done these problems already. Do you remember how we did them? I'm just throwing a shot here. Hopefully you remembered, but if you don't, that's absolutely okay.
Wasn't it in like 6.2 or so?
That's exactly where it was from. Oh wait, no, 3. It was 3. 2 was multiplying.
Yeah.
It was during the division section.
Yeah, right. Just had to.
I kind of showed it to you guys ahead of time, but
Yeah.
Don't we just have to? Didn't we have to put it in long division mode for 3? And then wouldn't we do that here too?
we could do long division. I don't like long division. I wanted to do the quicker one. Yeah, synthetic division. Much faster. Long division is just a lot more writing, and I'm lazy, so I like synthetic division. Long division absolutely would work. So if something is a factor, that means you're going to have a remainder of 0 when you divide them. That's all it means. So if you get a remainder of 0, it's a factor. And I most definitely started teaching that to you ahead of time in section 3 because it was part of this. To me, this feels kind of weird in this section, like it doesn't completely fit in. And I know why it's in here. It's just, to me, it didn't feel like it fit in. So I taught it to you in the division already. So if you do long division, you would take the black one divided by the blue one on the outside. And if your remainder was 0, it's a factor. If we're doing synthetic division, who's going to tell us? 24. Katie. What do I divide by in the little box?
-1.
Perfect.
I knew that.
You divide by -1. It's the opposite of the factor.
Oh, yeah.
So if you have a factor of x plus 1, we have a 0 or a root or a solution. That's what goes in the little box. Okay, so I'm going to guess a lot of you remember how to do this on your own. Why don't you try this quickly? Oh, did I hear a lot of no's? It was literally like 2 days ago. This test is not going to go well if we're saying no for 2 days ago. Yes, please try. That's why you have erasers. Erase if you did it wrong.
Is this one of the hardest sections? This one of the easier sections.
Now, the problem we just did before this, those are the hardest style problems. This is in this section, and so is the sum and difference of cubes in this section, so that's why I'm saying this section's not. The problems that we did right before this are considered the hardest, yes. I think that's probably more what you were asking? Yep. Bring the number down. Multiply. Bring the first number down. Multiply times whatever's in the box. Write your answer in the next spot. Add. Multiply. Add.
Wait, what do you multiply?
Times the box.
Oh, yeah.
You're always going to take the answer times whatever's in the box and then write it in the next spot.
Wait, did you answer? 0.
1.
Take -1 times -1.
Perfect. -4 times -1 is 4. 0.
That's what you usually do. But since it's just 0, well, the answer is 0.
Mm-hmm. If you get a remainder of 0, the answer to that question is yes. If you get a remainder other than 0, the answer is no. That's all we're going to do for those. So these questions are generally pretty nice because they're exactly what you did in 6.3. You're just doing synthetic division. And all you're going to do is look to see what the answer is. The question isn't even going to be this. You know, like we wrote these answers from before, right? Like this would be -4 minus x plus x 0x squared. So you don't even have to write that. You're just writing yes or no by looking at the remainder. What I can tell you ahead of time is this is exactly what you're going to do in pre-calc. So you'll be given these big scary equations and asked to factor it. And normal easy ways don't work, so what you do is you do synthetic division and find out what factors are there. And there's a certain way that you try numbers for synthetic division. So this stuff is kind of leading you to doing things, but not much this year. We're just kind of laying the groundwork now. And if you're done with math at Algebra 2, well then that's fine. You're just going to learn this and it's going to be useless, but that's okay. This is kind of base work for people moving on. Okay, that's the whole section. Now the numbers, I changed them around a little bit. I told you yesterday it would be a little bit more work today, and it is, but it's not a lot. Now, here's the good news. You probably thought that these questions today were difficult, and that's fine, because they kind of are. We've got about like 20 minutes to work today. You will not need to bring anything home tonight, because we have tomorrow to work on it as well. So we have tomorrow to work on this same homework, and then we can start the chapter review midway through the hour tomorrow. So you should be able to do all of the homework in class without needing to bring anything home. And I'm okay with that. I kind of planned it because I knew these were a little more difficult and you probably would want help on these questions. Okay, let's get to work.